Good morning and welcome back, everyone, to day 2 of the INGSA conference. My name is James Wilsden from University of Sheffield in the UK and Vice Chair of INGSA, to those I haven't met before. So it's a real pleasure to be able to just open up today's proceedings and point to what lies ahead over the rest of today. We heard, of course, from Mark Sana last night, giving a characteristically elegant and insightful account of yesterday's discussions. From Peter Gluckman, the good, the sad and the bad. From Helen Clark, a powerful injunction to raise our aspirations for science advice. And then over our 4 parallel sessions through the day, a whole set of fantastically rich and challenging discussions. We're going to continue with that format for today. We have our 4 streams running again over the 2 middle sessions of the day. Stream 1 on science advice in an era of technological and societal transformation. Stream 2 on science advice and the SDGs. Stream 3 on the future of science advice. And Stream 4 on contexts and case studies. So they will get underway after the coffee break at 11 o'clock. Before that, we have an opening keynote and a plenary session. And then at the very end of today, we will be having another keynote from Eugene Mutimura, the Minister of Education from Rwanda. Delighted to have Minister Mutimura here. And in the final session, the final plenary, we are going to be looking ahead at ways forward for this field, disparate and dynamic as it is, and also ways forward for INGSA as a network. And I was very struck yesterday listening to Peter's opening remarks and then just moving between sessions, talking to people in the breaks and over lunch, at how rapidly INGSA has evolved and grown into a really energetic and exciting community spanning practice, supply, demand, research, in all of the ways that we touched on yesterday. In some ways it seems a very long time ago, but it is only 6 years or so since a small group of us first began having conversations about the need for a network of this kind. And of course, that led to the initial meeting in Auckland in 2014 and everything that has followed from that. We are hugely excited and energized every time we get together in this way, just to see the range of people, the range of interests that are mobilizing under the umbrella of INGSA. But reflecting back on that initial period and that first core group, there's no doubt that INGSA would never have got this far without the vision and energy of a small but very committed group of individuals. Peter Gluckman, of course, bang on cue, foremost among them. But others in that core group included our first keynote speaker this morning. Remi Quirion has been Chief Scientist of Quebec since 2011 and has played a hugely significant role both in the advisory side of the Quebec and wider Canadian system and also in various aspects of the science funding system. Remi has been a very important figure in these debates. He's been a hugely supportive and influential partner and collaborator for us as INGSA has grown, particularly he's been our arm, given that neither Peter nor I can speak French, our arm into a whole range of Francophone countries where there's been a strong demand for INGSA's work, and Remi has just done a fantastic job of spearheading many of those activities. So we're really delighted that Remi can be here now to give us an opening keynote on the theme of From Local to Global Government Advice. Remi Quirion.
Can you? Okay, very good. Donc, merci beaucoup. Merci, James. C'est un plaisir d'être avec vous ici ce matin, de retour au Japon. Thank you very much to the Japanese colleague for the invitation, for the organization of, of the meeting. It's really great to be back. Je voudrais aussi, I would like also to introduce Lucie Tremblay here in the room. Lucie is the Quebec delegate to Tokyo. So if you want to know more about Quebec, talk to her. She knows everything about us. So the first lecture by our former Prime Minister, very high level, international leadership, and so on. The second one, yesterday afternoon, focused quite a bit on the EU. So today what I will talk about is more, in a sense, on the ground. You're appointed as chief scientist and basically say, ooh, what do I do next? So that's a little bit what I want to talk about to do today, and some lesson learned as chief scientist. But before that, a brief introduction to Canada and to Quebec. Of course, a huge country. To go from Montreal to Vancouver take almost as much time as going from Montreal to Paris or London. Flying to Europe is often cheaper than flying across the country. The population of Canada, well, a bit the population of Tokyo, on a huge piece of land. Parliamentary democracy, part of the Commonwealth, part of the G7. A year ago, Mona Nemer was appointed as chief scientist of Canada. I have known her for about 30 years, so we do a lot of work together. A lot of natural resources, strong education, and healthcare system. But here is the thing. Education and healthcare in Canada is a provincial matter. So very important. The university network, all public, financed by the province, not by the federal government. Quebec, a suburb of Tokyo, 8 million, Quebec City, the capital. Investment in R&D, largest in Canada, about 2.4%. Strong university network. Minita, area like clean energy. We have a lot of natural resources, a lot of water. Health research is good, aerospace and so on. Sustainable development, major priority for the Quebec government. Aging population, a bit like in Japan. In terms of average age, we are second in the world after Japan. So immigration, very important for us. The mandate of the chief scientists is a bit different. I would say probably closer to Mark Ferguson, chief scientist of Ireland, than to some others. So yes, I advise the government on research and innovation. I promote a lot of international research collaboration and partnership. Involved with many missions of the Prime Minister, of the Premier, and various ministers. Key as well, promote scientific literacy and partnership with civil society. But in addition to that, I chair the 3 funding organizations in Quebec. One in social science and humanities, one in health, and one in science and engineering. And here one of the goals is to develop multidisciplinary research. Because for this big challenge of society, like climate change, you need everyone to work together. And of course, training at all levels is very important. As Jim mentioned, first day on the job, September 4th, 2011. I was very happy as a neuroscientist at McGill. Then you are in these shoes. What do you do? what's the first thing that you should think about, talk about with government, with your minister? What about a chief scientist book, chief scientist for dummy? There must be someone somewhere out there that can help me. Well, very few. But Peter was there, John Beddington at the time in the UK, and Glover in the EU, and a few others. But really you feel like you're on your own. Myself, September 4th, a lot of discussion with my minister prior to taking the job. 4th, first day on the job. 6th, the minister changed portfolio. So I have a new boss. So you have to have a lot of resilience to accommodate all the time. So, advisor to the provincial government, to the elected official, minister, premier, policymaker, high-level bureaucrat. Some example that for me in the early days were quite different from the life of a scientist. You receive many requests, but you don't have time to write a long report telling them, oh, sorry, I'll consult, get back to you in 6 months. Often, they want the advice in few days, sometime few hours. So, very challenging. Frequent one-on-one meeting with the elected official. When they find you, I don't know if it's the experience of colleagues in the room, but when they know that you exist, then you start to be bombarded with all kinds of questions that they would like to have help with or some advice. Participation in various committees of government, a lot of discussion about economy, work, international affairs, big data, etc., etc. We work a lot also in terms of partnership with various parts of the world. And for example, one of them is the one that goes very well, Massachusetts partnership with between Quebec and Massachusetts. Another aspect of the mandate, promoting science to elected officials. Of course, you have the usual minister that will contact you, but one thing that we decided to do as well is to organize breakfast meeting with elected officials from all parties. They choose the topic, not me. They say climate change is something that we like to hear about. Then I ask a couple of scientists to join us to talk about climate change, not in 25 minutes, in 3-4 minutes. And then elected officials start to ask questions. Worked very well, and we have been doing that for more than 4 years now. Science informed policy, political decision. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. So as a scientist, when you work in your lab, you submit grant, you submit paper, you get comments back from colleagues, and you say, oh, they did not understand. They are full of, etc., etc. Here, you suggest something, make some advice. Sometimes they listen to it, sometimes they don't, because they have to look at the political aspect of their decision. 2 examples, bait fish with live bait. Fishermen in Quebec were importing these small bait from Japan, from China. When they have live, if they escape, then they can grow. And they are not indigenous species. So then we say, well, be careful, and they follow the advice. Caribou in the forest. Basically say, well, you should protect the caribou, not go with a new kind of exploitation of the forest in this area. They decide to go for it anyway. So basically they move the caribou herd to another place. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And we discussed that here a little bit already. Scientific result, part of a ton of consideration in the political decision-making process. And that could be frustrating for a scientist when you think, oh, they should understand. It's a bit like the talk yesterday where the policymaker and the scientists have different jargon. So we have to learn the language of the other. Science and the public, fake news. So basically here on the web, we are working with the university network in Quebec. So we have what we call detector de rumeur. So every week we have 2 of them. Say, well, Quirion solve Alzheimer's disease. Then the detector de rumeur, false rumor, we say, no, that's not necessarily true. That's very popular and come from the ground up. Very useful for politicians, very useful for civil society. So we have a lot of activities like that. And more, we're developing programs on participatory citizen science project. Science and diplomacy at the international level. So basically here, Quebec is small, so we want to make sure that we increase the impact of what our scientific community, our research community is doing. So a lot of relation at the international level. A lot of partnership of Quebec Premier's office with UNESCO, the EU, West Africa, etc., etc. One thing that we have just started that we'll try to expand, fellowship for PhD. They are finishing their PhD. They are thinking about a different career. So we offer them a fellowship, a training in Quebec, office abroad. So basically, and we started with 2, London and Munich, but I hope that in a year from now, we'll be able to have these type of young people in the network in all Quebec delegation. And I think it's a great opportunity for them to learn on the ground about science policy, advice to elected officials. We work a lot also with Africa in the context of Future Earth. We have what we call a START Fellowship program for students in these countries that are interested to learn on the ground about climate change. So we offer a fellowship from Quebec on that field. Little interesting thing with Massachusetts. As I mentioned, we have a collaboration with the state of Mass. We decided climate change will be a good area to focus on. When President Trump was elected, they said, oof, maybe we're dead. The Massachusetts officials said, no, to the contrary, we know that the Fed will not do it anymore, so we need to do it at the state level. So now we have joint research program between Quebec and the state of Massachusetts on climate change. About a year and a half ago, we had the first visit of the Premier of Quebec in Israel, and I was part of the mission. And the Premier said, well, fine, Israel, but we want also to explore opportunity in Palestine. So they called me and they say, what kind of link do you have with Palestine? Do you know the university network there? I said, no. So basically the bottom line was, find out and see if there's something we can do with them. Quite amazing. We're there. We visited the network. Then I asked the university in Quebec any interest to welcome some of these experts, some of these scientists to Quebec University. Overwhelming response. Over 80 offer for internship in Quebec University. Since last May, we have welcomed 30 of these scientists in all disciplines. And now we are starting the second call. So very successful and a way to bridge Palestine and Quebec in terms of research and innovation. And of course, you heard about IDRC, great organization that we have in Canada, and we do a lot of work with them in the context of INGSA and others. So again, international activity, really a major aspect of my mandate, done a lot of collaboration with various countries, and of course, INGSA, for me, the decision to create that organization, the meeting in New Zealand and then in Brussels, just fabulous. Because at least we can talk, we can exchange, we can call experts that will tell you maybe you should not do this that way, you should do it in a different way. And also, building capacity in this field is absolutely critical. Some recent initiative that I want to focus a little bit on is with INGSA and the school. Already it was mentioned, Africa. So for us, for various reasons in Quebec, we decided to focus on West Africa and Central Africa, French-speaking country in Africa, and build capacity in terms of science policy. We had an event, a workshop in Dakar in 2017. We'll have another one in Burkina Faso next year, and others are coming. But always extremely stimulating to exchange with these young people all over Africa. We are learning from them as much as they are learning from us. We also work with, in the context of the G7, and they're on the Arctic. Because of course in Quebec, we are very much affected in the north part of Quebec, of Canada. Climate change is a huge impact. So we are trying now to develop integrated research network, including First Nation living in the north, that will basically be leading the research activity, and hopefully in the context of global network. So, some lesson learned. Trust, keyword. You need to have trust of your boss, of course, of high-level policymaker, deputy minister, very important. And for me, at least, more often than not, it's a phone call away. They rarely ask for a long report these days. It's more they call us and can you give me some advice over the next few days on that following topic? You are an advisor. You don't make the decision. Often it's hard for scientists who think that they know best. So you have to learn to change your mentality. Of course, understanding the decision-making process, science is only one piece of the puzzle. You have to have supporter. You cannot be loner. So you have to have a crowd of supporter at various levels of government that will help you in your day job. You have to build capacity. I talk about Africa. I would argue that in terms of capacity, we don't have that much more capacity in Quebec than in many other places in the world. So we still need to think about building capacity, and INGSA School is a great way to do that. Do not let facts speak for themselves. You assume that you talk with a high-level policymaker, that he will talk to the deputy minister, and then the deputy minister will talk to the minister. More often than not, it does not happen. Do not take anything for granted. Do not let the facts speak for themselves. The message has to be very clear. It's not necessarily that I like Twitter, but this is the type of message that you have to convey to them and give them kind of a scan of various opportunities. Scientific credibility, I think, is very important, both with the politician, but as well, of course, with the scientific community. Broad-based approach, and be resilient. Your boss will change regularly, and you have to get used to it. So resilience is very important. So now, for the past month, I am at Premier number 4, 3 different parties, 7 ministers. But that's part of the game, and you're lucky if you work with one of them for more than a couple of years, at least that's the way in Quebec. So 2 keywords, trust and resilience. So again, just convey the same message. Credibility at home, locally, critical, otherwise hard to build credibility nationally and globally. Regional government, I would even say municipal government, key ingredient to success more and more in the future. Civilians want to be involved, and usually they can be involved more locally at the level of cities and municipalities. It's changing in terms of best practice with colleagues all over the world is very important. INGSA is leading the charge, and we need to continue to build. The demand now on INGSA, the small team, are just huge. So we need help. We need help from the corner of the room there with the new generation. So we need you, and we need to work with you and help you as much as we can. So the future is the young generation. Thank you very much. So sorry for the voice. Sometimes I have a bit of trouble, so it will get better.
Thank you. That was fantastic. A really, really great overview of your role and lessons learned. We've got time for just a few questions before we move on to the next panel. If anyone would like to ask one, there's one here at the front. Have we got our roving mics and another there from Michael? Yes.
Thank you, Remi. Very enlightening. Your description of the challenges that you faced made me think about two fundamental tensions that any scientist faces when speaking with elected officials or trying to impact policy. The first one is the tension between the nuance, the subtleties that we know within our research and the expectation for messages that are much more black and white. This need for simplifying, crafting the messages in a super accessible way. You came from the science world, and now you have to speak that language. How do you cope with that? And the second one has been mentioned yesterday, and that's the timeline. We appreciate fundamental science. We appreciate the years that it takes to get the data and to sit with it. And here you are expected to give answers on a totally different timeline. How do you cope with these tensions? How do you do a good job within that?
Thanks. No, can I echo the comment from the chair, a phenomenal explanation. And I really liked your international strategy. But there was one country missing, China. Any comment?
Maybe I'll start with that one. Or maybe just before that, an additional slide that I had, and just an example of the type of question that you have. So the Minister of Public Affairs in Quebec called me about 6 months ago, and I said, what do you know about pit bull, about this type of dogs? Because of course there is now kind of regulation in various cities in the province, and in one cities, no, you cannot have pit bull. In the next city, yes, you can have. So what do you do? What should we have a national type of thing? So we made various suggestions, and finally they had some kind of regulation of all these things. But of course, what did I know about pit bull? Nothing, or very little. But to your question as well, one, I'm very lucky. At the beginning, it's a bit hard, but very lucky to have 3 boards that are associated with my function. 3 research boards. On each of these boards, 15 elected members. They are elected by government. I make suggestions, not me. So we have scientists from all kinds of shape and form. So when I get a call like that, I can call someone on my board of science engineering, veterinary, and say, do you know anything about pit bull? Can you give me some suggestion by less than 48 hours? So in about every field, I have that kind of people that I can call and who will help me. And of course, we have staff also at the Fonds de Recherche du Québec that are very, very helpful. So in terms of giving advice quickly, you get used to it. And I think I personally, with my personality, I like it. Instead of saying, we'll see you in 6 months, I much prefer that. You're on the go and all that, so energy. But of course, as you said, it's rarely black and white. And you don't want to hide anything. So basically, and I think Peter has mentioned that many times, you offer option, and then they are the one to decide. If the decision does not pan out, maybe they blame you, but that's part of the job as well. So I think there, I don't have much difficulty with that one. The other one was related to what? I forgot. Yeah, the timeline also, at first I must say that very challenging. But again, you have to have great group of experts, of scientists, or people from the scientific community, or even the private sector. I consult a lot with the private sector that will help you. So again, it's trust with the elected official, but a lot of trust also with members of civil society. China, we have a lot of partnership with China. I did not focus on that one, but like one of the funding organizations in Quebec, we have partnership with the National Science Foundation of China for over 25 years. Now we have partnership with the 3 funding organizations. Each year we launch call on various topics, and we co-fund a team in China as well as in Quebec. So a great partnership with China, but probably with the government, the new government that we have, China will certainly remain an important partner, but Africa will be more and more of a partner for us. The future of Francophonie, of French-speaking community, is not, sorry to say that, but it's not in Quebec, it's not in France, it's not in Belgium, it's in Africa. So we have to work with colleagues in Africa and work together. Yes, Francophonie, but as well economy, education, science, and so on. So sadly, that's where Quebec will focus over the next few years.
Remi, thank you again for giving us such an inspiring start to the day and for all the work you're doing. We're very, very grateful. Join me again in thanking Remi.